In a small apartment on the outskirts of Boston, Sarah Matthews grades papers by lamplight, stretching her teacher's salary until it almost covers the bills. When a soaking wet 12-year-old boy appears at her door one stormy night, her world shifts. She sees something in his eyes, a mix of fear and determination that reminds her of herself at that age. Against her better judgment, she lets him in. She doesn't know it yet, but this simple act of kindness will unlock a mystery that spans continents and threatens to expose decades of carefully guarded royal secrets. What would you do if you discovered the troubled child you've been protecting is actually the missing heir to a billion-dollar empire? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Sarah's red pen hovered over the stack of 7th-grade essays as thunder rattled her apartment windows. The boy stood in her doorway, rainwater pooling around his expensive sneakers, the kind her students begged their parents for but could never afford. His clothes were soaked through, but even drenched. She could tell the quality was far beyond anything you'd find at Target. "Please," he said, his accent slight but distinct, "just for tonight." She should call the police. That's what the mandatory reporter training demanded. That's what any sensible person would do. But something in his posture, the way he held himself, with dignity despite his obvious desperation, made her hesitate. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. "Let's get you dried off." He entered cautiously, his backpack clutched tight against his chest. Sarah noticed how his eyes swept the apartment, taking in the cramped living room with its second-hand furniture and walls covered in student artwork. He was assessing exits, she realized. She'd seen that look before, in her years volunteering. "At the youth shelter. I'm Miss Matthews," she said, keeping her voice gentle, "but you can call me Sarah." "Alex," he replied after a moment's hesitation. Something about the way he said it made her wonder if it was his real name. She brought him a towel and her old Boston University sweatshirt. "The bathroom's through there. You can change into something dry." While he changed, Sarah's fingers hovered over her phone. Lisa would know what to do. Her friend had been a social worker for 20 years before switching to teaching. But something made her wait. Alex emerged wearing her sweatshirt, which hung to his knees. His own clothes were carefully draped over his arm, and Sarah noticed they bore no labels. Custom-made, maybe? The thought was bizarre, but it matched other details she was noticing. His perfect posture, the formal way he spoke. "Thank you, Miss Matthews," he said, standing awkwardly by the bathroom door. His backpack remained firmly in his grip. "Are you hungry?" she asked, moving toward the kitchen. "I was about to make some hot chocolate." He nodded, following her, but maintaining a careful distance. As she heated milk on the stove, the real way, not with packets, she watched him from the corner of her eye. He moved like someone used to being watched, each gesture measured and precise. "Would you like to tell me why you're out alone on a night like this?" Alex stared into his hot chocolate. "It's complicated." "It usually is," Sarah said, remembering her own complicated past. "But I need to know if someone's looking for you. Someone who might be worried." A flash of something, pain, fear, crossed his face. "No one who cares about me is looking." The way he emphasized the word cares sent a chill down Sarah's spine. She'd taught long enough to recognize the difference between typical teenage dramatics and genuine distress. This was the latter. "Your parents, please." He cut her off, his composure cracking slightly. "I can't go back." "Not yet." Sarah sighed, knowing she was about to break about a dozen school policies and probably several laws. "One night," she said firmly, "and tomorrow we figure this out properly." Relief flooded his features, quickly masked by that careful composure. He set his backpack down for the first time, and something heavy thudded inside it. "May I?" He gestured to the couch. "Of course, I'll get you a blanket." As she pulled spare bedding from her closet, Sarah heard the zip of his backpack. Glancing back, she caught him quickly tucking something into its depths. A book, she thought, with text that looked like Arabic. The questions multiplied in her mind, but she forced them down. One night, she told herself, just give him one night of safety, then sort out the rest tomorrow. She helped him make up the couch, noting how he thanked her with the kind of formal courtesy she'd expect from a diplomat's child. Maybe that's what this was, some kind of international custody dispute. But that didn't explain the fear she'd glimpsed beneath his careful manners. "Try to get some sleep," she said, setting a glass of water on the coffee table. "I'm right down the hall if you need anything." "You're very kind," he said softly. "I won't forget this." Later, lying awake in her own bed, Sarah wondered what exactly she'd gotten herself into. The wind still howled outside, and she could hear the occasional creak from the living room as Alex shifted on her sagging couch. Tomorrow would bring complications, she knew. Questions would need answers. But for tonight, at least, she'd done what her heart told her was right. She was almost asleep when she heard it, the soft sound of Arabic phrases being repeated in a child's whisper, like a prayer or perhaps a lesson being rehearsed. Sarah pulled her pillow closer and pretended not to hear, adding one more mystery to the growing list of questions about her unusual guest. Morning brought weak sunlight and the smell of coffee. Sarah found Alex already awake, the couch neatly made, sitting with perfect posture as he read a worn paperback. He'd changed back into his own clothes, which she noticed were now perfectly pressed despite their soaking the night before. "Did you sleep?" she asked, moving to the kitchen. "Yes, thank you." He marked his place carefully with a silver bookmark that caught the light. As he turned, something glinted at his neck, a pendant on a fine chain, quickly tucked away when he noticed her looking. Sarah busied herself with breakfast preparations, giving him space while keeping him in her peripheral vision. "Are you hungry?" "I can make eggs. Please don't trouble yourself. It's no trouble." She cracked eggs into a bowl, adding a splash of milk. "In fact, I could use your help. These eggs won't whisk themselves." A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. I've never whisked eggs." He shook his head, looking almost ashamed. "The kitchen staff," he began, then caught himself. "I mean, I never learned." Sarah kept her expression neutral, though her mind was racing. Kitchen staff. "Well, there's a first time for everything. Come here, I'll show you." Hesitantly, Alex approached the counter. Sarah demonstrated the whisking motion, then handed him the bowl. His first attempts were awkward, but he watched her with intense concentration, adjusting his technique until the eggs were perfectly beaten. "Excellent," she said, and his face lit up with genuine pride before he carefully composed his features again. Over breakfast, Sarah tried a gentle probe. "That's an interesting pendant you're wearing." Alex's hand went to his neck, touching the hidden necklace. "It was my mother's," he said softly. For a moment, his careful mask slipped, revealing a deep well of sadness. "Is she?" Sarah left the question unfinished. "She's alive." His voice was tight. "But it's complicated." A knock at the door made them both jump. Alex's face went pale, but Sarah recognized the rapid pattern, Lisa's signature knock. "It's okay," she assured him. "It's just my friend Lisa. She's a teacher too." Still, Alex moved quickly to gather his belongings, shoulders tense. Sarah opened the door to find Lisa holding a tray of coffee cups and wearing her "we need to talk" expression. "Thought you might need reinforcements," Lisa said, entering. She took in Alex's presence with raised eyebrows but didn't comment. "I brought you both hot chocolate with extra marshmallows." Alex remained standing, his backpack once again clutched close. Sarah noticed how he positioned himself with clear sightlines to both the door and the window. "Alex, this is Ms. Reynolds." "Lisa, this is Alex. He needed a place to stay last night." Lisa set the drinks down, her experienced social worker's eyes taking in every detail. "Rough night to be out," she said casually. "Good thing Ms. Matthews has a spare couch." Something about her matter-of-fact tone seemed to ease some of Alex's tension. He accepted the hot chocolate with a formal, "Thank you, Ms. Reynolds." "That accent," Lisa said. "Saudi Arabia?" Alex's cup froze halfway to his lips. What makes you say that? 20 years of working with international students, Lisa shrugged. You pick things up. Sarah watched the interchange with growing concern. Alex's composure had slipped again, revealing a flash of fear before he recovered. I should go, he said, setting down the untouched drink. Wait, Sarah stepped forward. At least let us help. I've imposed too much already. He moved toward the door with that strange mix of grace and urgency she'd noticed before. Thank you for your kindness. Alex? Lisa's voice was gentle but firm. Whatever trouble you're in, there are people who can help, legal people who understand complicated situations. He paused, hand on the doorknob. For a moment, Sarah thought he might say more. Instead, he reached into his pocket and placed something on the side table, a folded piece of paper. I'm sorry, he said, and slipped out before either of them could respond. Sarah moved to follow, but Lisa caught her arm. Give him a minute, then we'll talk about why you have a runaway minor in your apartment. The paper Alex left turned out to be a note written in elegant script. Thank you for teaching me about eggs, and for not asking questions I cannot answer. As Sarah sank onto the couch, which still held a trace of the expensive cologne she'd noticed on Alex's clothes. Lisa, what have I gotten myself into? Well, Lisa picked up the silver pendant that had fallen unnoticed when Alex made his hasty exit. Based on these royal seals and inscriptions, something way above our pay grade. Thunder rolled in the distance as they examined the pendant, its Arabic inscriptions glinting in the morning light. Somewhere out in the city, a boy with too many secrets and too much dignity was running from something, or someone, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that her part in this story was far from over. Sarah couldn't focus during her morning classes. The silver pendant sat heavy in her desk drawer, its inscriptions seeming to mock her with secrets she couldn't decipher. Lisa had taken photos before heading to her own classroom, promising to contact a friend who studied Middle Eastern languages. During her free period, Sarah found herself in the school library, scanning news sites for any mention of missing Saudi children. She was so absorbed that she almost missed the familiar figure slipping between the stacks. Alex wore the school uniform. Somehow he'd acquired one and moved with such natural confidence that he blended perfectly with the other students. He sat at a corner table, pulled out a notebook, and began writing with intense concentration. Sarah approached quietly, not wanting to startle him. This is an interesting way to run away. He looked up, unsurprised. Education is important. She glanced at his notebook and froze. The page was filled with complex mathematical equations far beyond middle school level. What are you working on? A proof, he said, as if it were perfectly normal for a 12-year-old to be doing graduate level. Mathematics. I've been thinking about the Riemann hypothesis. Sarah taught advanced math and recognized enough to know she was looking at something extraordinary. Where did you learn this? My tutors. He hesitated. And my mother. She has doctorates in mathematics and physics. She always said education was the one thing they couldn't take from me. Who are they, Alex? He returned to his equations. You still have my pendant. You left it behind. Keep it safe. His pen never stopped moving. It's the only thing I have of hers. A shadow fell across the table. Principal Davidson stood there, frowning. Miss Matthews? A word! Sarah's heart raced. Of course. Alex, stay. But when she looked back, he was already gone, his notebook left behind in his haste. In Davidson's office, Sarah perched on the edge of an uncomfortable chair. He's a potential new student. I was just helping him with some advanced mathematics. Really? Davidson's tone was skeptical. Because he matches the description of a runaway the police are looking for. Something about a custody dispute. Sarah kept her face neutral. I wouldn't know about that. Sarah. Davidson leaned forward. If you're involved in something, I'm not. She stood. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a class to prepare for. Back in her classroom, Sarah opened Alex's abandoned notebook. Beyond the equations, she found other pages filled with notes in multiple languages: Arabic, French, Chinese. In the margins were small sketches of what looked like chemical structures and quantum mechanics diagrams. A noise made her look up. A man in an expensive suit stood in her doorway, flanked by two others. "Miss Matthews, we'd like to talk about Alexander. I'm about to start a class. This won't take long." He stepped forward, badge already extended. "FBI Special Agent Cooper. We're investigating a potential international incident." Sarah's blood ran cold, but years of dealing with difficult parents helped her maintain composure. "I need to see a warrant. We're not here to search anything. We just want to know if you've had contact with this boy." He held up a photo. It showed Alex in formal attire, standing beside a woman in a hijab who shared his eyes. The photo had clearly been taken at some kind of official function. "I'm sorry," Sarah said carefully. "I can't help you," Cooper smiled thinly. "Ms. Matthews, this is a matter of international security. If you're harboring him, I'm not harboring anyone. And unless you have a warrant, this conversation is over. My students will be here any minute." As if on cue, the bell rang. Cooper handed her a card. "When you decide to be more cooperative, call me. Before this becomes more serious than it already is." Sarah waited until they left before sinking into her chair, hands shaking. She stared at the notebook, its pages filled with the kind of genius that could change the world, or destroy it in the wrong hands. Her phone buzzed, a text from Lisa. "News sites are exploding. Search Saudi prince missing heir. Then get over. Here now." Sarah looked at the FBI card, the notebook, the pendant still in her drawer. Somewhere in this web of mathematics and monarchy, a brilliant, frightened boy was trying to forge his own path. And somehow, she'd become part of his journey. Thus, next bell rang. Her students began filing in, chattering about their day. Sarah tucked the notebook away and stood to write on the board, already planning how to get through this class quickly. She had a feeling time was running out. Lisa's classroom was empty except for the glow of her laptop screen. She looked up. As Sarah entered, her expression grave. "Lock the door," Sarah did, then hurried to Lisa's desk. The screen showed a news article with a familiar face, Alex, but younger, dressed in traditional Saudi clothing. The headline read, "Search intensifies for missing Saudi heir." "It gets better," Lisa said, scrolling. "Or worse, depending on how you look at it. His real name is Prince Alexander bin Hassan al-Rashid. His mother is Princess Amira, the mathematical prodigy who caused a scandal by marrying an American professor. They've been living in seclusion since his father's death 3 years ago." Sarah sank into a chair. "That's why he has such advanced education. And why the FBI is involved. There's a corporate angle, too." Lisa clicked another tab. "His father's company, Rashid Global, is worth billions. Alex is the sole heir, but there's some clause about him needing to be under his uncle's guardianship until he's 18. The uncle, who's supposedly looking for him now? Crown Prince Khalid." Lisa pointed to a photo of a stern-faced man. "According to this, he's been Alex's guardian since his father died. But look at the date he disappeared." Sarah leaned closer. 3 days after his mother was hospitalized for a routine procedure, which she still hasn't emerged from. Lisa's voice was grim. "Convenient timing, don't you think?" A knock at the door made them both jump. Through the glass, they could see a janitor waiting with his cart, but something about his stance. "Back door," Lisa whispered, already closing her laptop. "Through the science lab." They slipped out just as they heard keys in the lock. Sarah glanced back to see the janitor speaking into a radio. In the parking lot, Lisa grabbed Sarah's arm. "There's a black SUV that's been sitting there all morning. Same one that was outside your apartment." Sarah's heart pounded. "How do they know?" "Security cameras, probably. Plus, Alex came to the school. They must have been watching. We have to help him." "Sarah, no, listen." Sarah pulled out the notebook. "Look at these equations. This isn't just about money or titles. That boy has a gift, and someone's trying to control it. Lisa studied the complex mathematical formulas. Like mother, like son. Princess Amira's research was supposedly revolutionary, but after marrying Alex's father, she stopped publishing, or was forced to stop. Sarah remembered Alex's words. Education was the one thing they couldn't take from me. A car engine started nearby. The black SUV was pulling out. They're leaving. Lisa frowned. Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text read, "Corner of Maple and 5th. Please hurry." "It's him," Sarah said. "He's watching us." "This is crazy. We should call the FBI." The same FBI working with his uncle. The one who conveniently got guardianship right before Alex's mother went into the hospital. Sarah was already walking. "I'm going." Lisa caught up. "At least let me drive. And Sarah, if this goes bad—" "I know." Sarah clutched the notebook tighter. But sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. They found Alex waiting in a small coffee shop, wearing different clothes but still carrying that same backpack. When he saw them, relief flooded his face before being quickly masked. "They're watching your apartment," he said as they sat down. "And the school," Sarah added. "Alex, or should I say, Your Highness?" He flinched. "Please don't. That life, it's not what you think." "Then tell us," Lisa said gently. "Let us help." Alex glanced around before pulling a folded newspaper from his bag. It was in Arabic, but the photo needed no translation. Princess Amira being wheeled into a hospital. "My mother discovered something," he said quietly. "Something valuable. My uncle. He wants control of the company, but more than that, he wants her research." When she refused to give it to him, his voice broke slightly. "The hospital," Sarah finished. Alex nodded. "She knew they might try something like this. She prepared me. The pendant, it's not just jewelry. There's a key hidden inside, and a code." "A code for what?" "Everything. Her research, the company, documents, proof of what my uncle's been doing." His hands trembled slightly. "But I can't access it alone. I need help." Before Sarah could respond, Alex stiffened. Through the window, they could see men in suits approaching from both directions. "Back door," Lisa said, already standing. "My car's in the alley." Alex hesitated. "I shouldn't have involved you." Sarah took his hand. "You didn't. We involved ourselves. Now come on." As they slipped out the back, Sarah caught a glimpse of their reflection in the coffee shop window. A teacher, a social worker, and a young prince, running from men in dark suits. Just another Tuesday in Boston. Somehow she had to laugh. Her students were always complaining that math would never be useful in real life. Now here she was, on the run, with a mathematical prodigy prince, about to decode secret research hidden in an Arabic pendant. Maybe she'd use it as an example in class, if she still had a job after this, that is. Lisa's car wound through Boston's back streets, taking random turns to shake any potential tail. In the back seat, Alex clutched his backpack, while Sarah examined the pendant under the passing streetlights. "There's a seam here," she said, fingering the edge, "but I can't see how it opens." "It's not just mechanical," Alex explained. "The code has to be entered first. Mom designed it based on prime number sequences." "Of course she did." Sarah smiled. "That's why you were working on advanced mathematics in the library. You're trying to crack her code." "Not exactly." Alex leaned forward. "I know the code, but it's not complete without the key equations from her latest research. The ones my uncle wants." Lisa checked the rearview mirror for the dozenth time. "And those equations are—" "In my head." Alex tapped his temple. "Mom taught them to me. Said I was the only one she could trust. She knew they'd never suspect a child of memorizing quantum mechanics formulas." Sarah turned to face him fully. "That's why you ran. Not just because of your mother being hospitalized, but because you knew they'd try to get the information from you next." Alex nodded. "Uncle Khalid brought in new tutors last week. They asked strange questions, tested me constantly. Then I overheard them talking about enhanced interrogation techniques. My God, Lisa breathed. Mom prepared me for this. She left. Clues about where to find help. He pulled a worn photo from his backpack, a formal portrait of the royal family. See the painting in the background? It's hanging in the Museum of Fine Arts here in Boston. That's why I came to this city. Sarah studied the photo. The royal family stood arranged in formal poses, wealth and power evident in every detail. But her eyes were drawn to Alex's mother, Princess Amira. Despite her regal bearing, there was something rebellious in her eyes. The same look she'd seen in Alex. What exactly did your mother discover? Sarah asked. Alex hesitated. It's complicated, but it could change everything. Energy production, computational physics, maybe even space travel. In the right hands, it could help millions. In the wrong hands, it could make billions, Lisa finished, for people who already have billions. Power attracts power, Alex said quietly. Uncle Khalid doesn't just want the company, he wants to control whatever comes next. A car with tinted windows passed them slowly. Lisa turned down a narrow alley. We need somewhere safe, she said. Somewhere they wouldn't think to look. Sarah's mind raced. The youth shelter where I used to volunteer. The director, Marcus, he's good people, and he knows how to be discreet. Won't they check places like that? Alex asked. Not this one. It's not officially listed anywhere. Marcus keeps it that way to protect kids from abusive families. Lisa nodded. That could work, but first, she pulled into a 24-hour pharmacy. In parking lot. We need supplies and to change our appearance. Inside the store, they split up. Sarah helped Alex pick out hair dye and different clothes, while Lisa grabbed burner phones and basic necessities. At the checkout, Sarah noticed Alex staring at a display of cheap jewelry. Something wrong? No, it's just... He picked up a simple silver chain. Mom always said the best hiding places are in plain sight. Everyone's looking for something elaborate, something royal. Sarah understood. But your mother's secret research isn't hidden in the pendant at all, is it? Alex shook his head. The pendant is just a key. The real information is hidden somewhere else. Somewhere nobody would think to look. Back in the car, Alex studied the museum photo again. There's an inscription on the painting's frame. Mom made sure I memorized it. But it's not just words. It's coordinates. Mathematical points that, when combined with her equations, create a map. Sarah finished, mathematical possibilities spinning in her mind. Your mother created a mathematical treasure map, protected by quantum mechanics and prime numbers. Alex smiled slightly. She said, if anything happened to her, I should find someone who loves math as much as she does, someone who would understand why it needs to be protected. Sarah felt the weight of trust in his words. Alex, I'm just a middle school math teacher who teaches advanced calculus for fun, who has degrees in both mathematics and education, who helps at youth shelters and takes in strays without asking questions. He met her eyes. Mum would have liked you. Would have. She's still alive. Yes. But, his voice caught, the hospital. They took her to... It's known for making problems disappear. We don't have much time. Lisa pulled into the shelter's back parking lot. Then let's solve this puzzle and get your mom out. But first, we all need rest. Even mathematical prodigies have to sleep sometimes. Alex's formal composure cracked into a real smile. Actually, I think I could eat first. I never got to finish. Learning about eggs. Sarah laughed, feeling a surge of protectiveness for this brilliant, brave boy who carried the weight of scientific revolution in his mind and royal responsibility on his shoulders. Eggs I can do, and while we cook, you can tell me more about these quantum mechanics equations. I have a feeling I'm going to need to brush up on my advanced physics. As they walked toward the shelter's back door, Sarah caught Alex looking at the stars. For a moment she saw him as he truly was, not just a prince or a prodigy, but a 12-year-old boy trying to save his mother and protect her legacy, carrying secrets that could change the world. She squeezed his shoulder gently. "We'll figure this out, I promise." He nodded, that careful mask slipping back into place. But now Sarah knew what lay beneath it: courage, brilliance, and a love of mathematics that might just save them all. Marcus met them at the shelter's back door, his dark face creased with concern. At 6'4" with graying dreadlocks, he cut an imposing figure, but his eyes were kind. "Sarah," he said quietly, "been a while since you brought me a midnight special." She pulled out her old social worker ID card, expired but still meaningful. "This one's different, Marcus. We need the basement room." His eyebrows rose. The basement room was reserved for the most sensitive cases, kids running from trafficking rings or cartel connections. One look at Alex's careful posture, and Marcus nodded. "Follow me. And Sarah? There's been people asking questions, men in suits, already." Lisa whispered. Marcus led them through the shelter's sleeping quarters. Most beds were full, teenagers curled under thin blankets, younger kids clutching stuffed animals. Alex watched them with a mixture of curiosity and sadness. The basement room was sparse but secure. No windows, solid door, private bathroom. Marcus had added a small kitchen area since Sarah's last visit. "Security cameras are on a closed circuit," he said. "Only shelter staff can access them, and we've had practice dealing with interested parties." Sarah touched his arm. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet." He handed her a burner phone. "My personal. Lines programmed in. You need anything, day or night." He didn't finish the sentence, just nodded and left. Alex sat on the bed, shoulders slumping slightly. For the first time, he looked his age. Exhausted, scared, but trying so hard to be strong. "You should sleep," Sarah said. "Can't." He pulled out his notebook. "Need to work on the equations. Mum's hospital transfer is scheduled for tomorrow night. Once they move her, you won't be able to find her," Lisa finished. Sarah sat beside him. "Show me the equations. 2 minds are better than 1. Alex hesitated, then opened the notebook to a clean page. His hand moved swiftly, filling the page with complex mathematical formulas. Sarah recognized elements of quantum mechanics mixed with something different. "Your mother's innovation," she said. "It's not just about energy production, is it? This could revolutionize encryption, quantum computing, among other things." Alex's pen kept moving. The coordinates from the painting, when filtered through these equations, a sharp knock made them all freeze. Marcus's voice came through the door. "Company, looking official." Lisa moved to the small TV in the corner, switching it to the security camera feed. 2 FBI agents, not Cooper but similarly dressed, were talking to Marcus in the lobby. "How did they find us so fast?" Sarah whispered. "They didn't," Alex said. Grimly, "They're canvassing all the shelters. Standard procedure." His voice was bitter on the last words. On screen, Marcus was showing the agent's official paperwork, explaining shelter confidentiality policies. His stance was relaxed, professional, giving nothing away. "Marcus knows how to handle them," Sarah assured Alex. "He's been protecting kids from powerful people for 20 years, but he's never dealt with something like this." Alex's voice shook slightly. "My uncle, he doesn't just have the FBI, he has private contractors, people who don't follow rules." As if summoned by his words, the security feed showed a new group entering the lobby. 3 men in tactical gear, trying too hard to look casual. "Contractors," Alex whispered. Sarah's phone buzzed. Marcus's signal. They listened as his deep voice carried through the floor. "Like I told the agents, sir, we respect the privacy of our guests. Unless you have a warrant." "We don't need a warrant," a new voice said. "This is a matter of national security." Alex was already packing his bag. "We have to go. They'll tear this place apart looking for me." "The back exit," Lisa said. "Through the laundry room." Sarah grabbed Alex's notebook, but he stopped her. "Wait." He tore out the page of equations, then quickly wrote something else, a series of numbers and letters. "The museum painting, if we get separated." Sarah memorized the code, then watched as Alex methodically burned the paper in the bathroom sink. They slipped out through the laundry room, just as voices echoed down the basement stairs. In the alley, Lisa's car was blocked by a black SUV. "This way," Sarah said, leading them toward the subway station. Her expired social worker ID might still work for shelter access, but now it felt like a link to something bigger, a commitment to protect this boy, no matter what. Alex moved silently. Beside her, his backpack clutched tight. The silver pendant gleamed dully under the streetlights, its secrets still locked away. But Sarah understood now. It wasn't just about solving equations or uncovering conspiracies. It was about a mother's love, encrypted in mathematics. About a boy brave enough to carry that love across continents. And somehow, improbably, Sarah had become part of that story. A middle school math teacher turned guardian of quantum secrets. She almost laughed at the absurdity of it. But when Alex looked up at her, trust shining in his eyes, she knew there was no going back. Sometimes the most important choices weren't choices at all. They were moments of recognition when doing the right thing was the only thing that made sense. Behind them, sirens began to wail. The burner phone buzzed in Sarah's pocket as they huddled in the back of an aging taxi. Lisa had split off to create a diversion with her car, promising to meet them later. "Unknown number," Sarah whispered, showing Alex the screen. He tensed, then relaxed slightly. "Answer it. If it's them, they'd just track the signal anyway." Sarah accepted the call, putting it on speaker but saying nothing. "Hello, Sarah," a woman's voice, accent similar to Alex's, but more pronounced. "Thank you for protecting my son." Alex's eyes went wide. "Mom?" "Habibi." The voice cracked slightly. "Are you safe?" "Yes, but how are you calling? They said you were sedated." "I have friends in the hospital, but I don't have much time." Princess Amira's voice grew urgent. "The transfer isn't what it seems. Khalid plans to take me out of the country." Sarah gripped the phone tighter. "Your Highness, we're trying to decode your research. The museum painting—" "No," Amira cut her off. "The painting is a distraction. Alex, remember what I taught you about prime numbers and their reflections?" Alex's face lit up. "The mirror theorem. But that means—" He grabbed his backpack, pulling out the Arabic textbook. "It's been here the whole time." A commotion came. Through the phone, voices shouting in Arabic. "Mom!" Alex's composure cracked. "Mom!" "I love you, Habibi." "Sarah, the equations aren't just formulas. They're a warning. Don't let them—" The line went dead. Alex stared at the phone. His careful mask shattered. Sarah pulled him close, feeling him shake with silent sobs. The taxi driver glanced back, concern on his weathered face. "Everything okay back there?" "Just family drama," Sarah managed. "The cabin on Mill Road, you said?" He nodded, turning onto a dirt road. Lisa's family cabin was remote enough to be safe, but close enough to the city to stay connected. Perfect for hiding a runaway prince and solving quantum physics puzzles. Alex pulled away, wiping his eyes with careful, practiced movements. He opened the textbook, revealing dense Arabic text interspersed with mathematical notation. "The equations everyone's looking for," he said softly. "They're hidden in plain sight, encoded in the practice problems. But they're meaningless without the key. The pendant? No." He touched the silver chain. "This is just insurance. The real key is something no one would think to look for." He managed a small smile. "Mom always said the best place to hide. Something was in your enemy's blind spot." The taxi stopped at a rustic cabin surrounded by pine trees. Sarah paid in cash, adding extra for discretion. As the taillights disappeared down the dark road, she heard Lisa's distinctive whistle from the trees. "Clear," Lisa called softly, emerging from the shadows. "But we need to move fast. News vans are starting to gather at the shelter." Inside, the cabin was simple but comfortable. Lisa had already stocked it with supplies, food, first aid kit, laptops with secure connections. "Burner phones for everyone," she said, distributing them. And this. She turned on the TV where news channels were running Alex's photo next to headlines about the missing prince. "They're calling it an international custody dispute," Lisa explained. "Your uncle's giving interviews, very concerned about his troubled nephew who's been manipulated by extremist elements." Alex's laugh was bitter. "Extremist elements? Like my mother's research into clean energy? Speaking of which," Sarah gestured to the textbook, "what did your mother mean about prime numbers and reflections?" Alex opened the book to a specific page. "Look at the practice problems. See how the numbers are arranged?" Sarah studied the layout. "Something about the pattern. They're not just numbers. They're positioning coordinates for a mirror array." Alex's fingers traced the problems. Mum developed a quantum reflection theory, but she realized it could be weaponized. The equations everyone's looking for? They're not the real breakthrough. They're a warning about what could happen if the technology falls into the wrong hands. "Your uncle doesn't know that," Lisa said. "No, he just knows it's valuable." Alex's voice hardened. "And he'll hurt anyone who stands in his way." A branch snapped outside. They froze, listening. "Another crack, closer. Back door," Lisa mouthed, reaching for her phone. But before they could move, the windows exploded inward in a shower of glass. The last thing Sarah saw was Alex being grabbed by dark figures, his mother's pendant glinting as it was torn from his neck. Then something hard struck her head, and the world went black. Sarah woke to the smell of antiseptic and the steady beep of hospital monitors. Her head throbbed, and when she tried to move, a gentle hand stopped her. "Easy," Lisa's voice said. "You took quite a hit." Sarah's vision cleared slowly. Lisa sat beside the hospital bed, sporting a black eye and butterfly. Bandages on her temple. Scattered across the bedside table were papers, corporate documents with the Rashid Global logo. "Alex?" Sarah managed. Lisa's face tightened. "They took him, but we've got help." She nodded toward the door, where Agent Cooper stood talking quietly with a tall woman in a hijab. "That's not—" Sarah started. "No, not Princess Amira." Lisa lowered her voice. "That's Nadia al-Rashid, Alex's aunt, his father's sister. She flew in as soon as she saw the news." The woman turned, and Sarah saw Alex's eyes in her face. She approached the bed with quiet grace. "Ms. Matthews," she said softly, "I understand I have you to thank for protecting my nephew." "Not well enough," Sarah replied, trying to sit up. "On the contrary." Nadia placed a file on Sarah's lap. "You kept him safe long enough for us to gather this." The file contained financial records, emails, surveillance photos, a paper trail of corruption leading straight to Crown Prince Khalid, evidence of embezzlement, corporate espionage, and something called Project Mirror. "My brother-in-law's ambitions extend far beyond the company," Nadia explained. "Amira's research, he believes it's the key to something revolutionary, but he doesn't understand the dangers." "The warning in the equations," Sarah remembered. "Alex said they were hidden in his textbook." "Which they took," Lisa added grimly. "But not before I saw the pattern." Sarah closed her eyes, remembering. The prime number reflections, they weren't just coordinates. They were a message about quantum resonance, something about cascading effects. "Yes," Nadia said sharply. "Amira discovered that her quantum reflection theory had a flaw. Under certain conditions, the reflections could multiply exponentially, creating a feedback loop that could theoretically tear apart the fabric of space-time." A new voice finished. They turned to see Agent Cooper approaching, his FBI facade replaced by something more focused. "I'm not actually with the Bureau," he said. "I work for a different agency, one very interested in preventing quantum accidents." Sarah's head spun, and not just from the concussion. "You were watching Alex all along?" "Watching Khalid," Cooper corrected. "We've suspected for months that he was developing weapons applications for quantum technology, but we couldn't move without proof." "Which we now have," Nadia said, gesturing to the documents. along with evidence of his plans to force Amira to weaponize her research. But we still don't have Alex, Sarah insisted, or the textbook with the complete equations. No, Cooper agreed, but thanks to your mathematical background, you saw enough of the pattern to help us understand what we're dealing with. And now we know where they're taking them both. Lisa pulled up a laptop, showing a private airfield outside Boston. Security footage revealed a medical transport helicopter landing near a private jet with Saudi diplomatic markings. They're flying them out tonight, Cooper explained. Once they're in Saudi airspace, we can't touch them. Then we have to stop them before that. Sarah swung her legs off the bed, ignoring the dizziness. How long was I out? 6 hours, Lisa said. The flight's scheduled for midnight. That gives us 4 hours. Sarah looked at Nadia. You have influence in the royal family. Can you delay the flight? Better. Nadia's smile was sharp. I can get us on it. As far as Khalid knows, I support his claim to guardianship. He's invited me to accompany them back to Riyadh. Us? Lisa asked. A princess travels with staff, Nadia said smoothly, and I believe I need a mathematical advisor. For the family business, of course. Cooper checked his phone. My team can handle the airport security, but once you're on that plane, we'll have Alex's guards, Nadia assured him. Men loyal to his father, who've been waiting for a chance to protect his son openly. Sarah touched the bandage on her head, thinking of Alex, his brilliant mind, his careful composure, his love for his mother. Somewhere in the equations he'd showed her was a warning that could save or destroy worlds. But more importantly, there was a 12-year-old boy who needed help. When do we leave? Nadia handed her a small bag containing fresh clothes and a Saudi diplomatic passport with Sarah's photo. How's your Arabic, Ms. Matthews? Non-existent, Sarah admitted. Then it's fortunate you're posing as an American mathematical consultant. Nadia's eyes twinkled. My brother always said numbers were their own language. Sarah thought of Alex, explaining quantum physics while learning to make eggs, of Princess Amira encoding warnings in textbook problems, of a family that spoke in mathematics and hid revolution in equations. Then let's go speak their language, she said, standing, and bring them home. The private medical facility gleamed with wealth, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of wrongness. Everything was too clean, too quiet. Armed guards stood at every intersection, their eyes following Nadia's small entourage. Remember, Nadia murmured as they approached the secure wing, you're here to consult on the company's educational initiatives. Nothing more. Sarah nodded, clutching her borrowed briefcase. Inside was a photo she'd found in Alex's textbook, a younger Princess Amira teaching mathematics to her son, both of them laughing over a shared joke. The casual intimacy of it made Sarah's heart ache. The guard checked their credentials, paying special attention to Sarah's diplomatic passport. Finally, he nodded and unlocked the door. Princess Amira lay propped up in bed, looking far too alert for someone supposedly under sedation. Her eyes, so like Alex's, fixed immediately on Sarah. The mathematics teacher, she said softly, the one who helped my son. Your Highness. Sarah bowed slightly. Leave us, Amira commanded the nurses. Once they were alone, her composed expression cracked. Where is he? Is Alex safe? Khalid has him, Nadia said grimly. They're preparing to fly you both back tonight. Amira closed her eyes briefly. The textbook. They took it, Sarah admitted. But I saw the pattern in the practice problems. The quantum reflection warnings are incomplete. Amira's fingers twisted in the sheets. The full equations, they're worse than we imagined. The cascade effect doesn't just risk local space-time disruption. It could spread exponentially. A quantum chain reaction, Sarah realized. That's why you hid the research in a children's textbook. Nobody would think to look there for world-ending physics. Khalid's weapons division has been trying to weaponize quantum reflection technology for years. Amira's voice was bitter. They failed because they lacked the key breakthrough, my breakthrough. The one you encrypted in math problems, Sarah said. Hidden in plain sight, like teaching complex physics to a child through games and stories. Amira smiled faintly. Alex understood. He always understood. He's brilliant, Sarah said. And brave. He risked everything to protect your work. No, Amira's eyes filled with tears. He risked everything to protect me. The research was just an excuse. He knew what Khalid would do to me once he had what he wanted. Sarah brought out the photo from the textbook. Amira touched it gently, tracing her son's laughing face. I remember this day, she said. We were studying prime factorization. Alex found a pattern no one had noticed before. He was so excited. Her voice broke. He was just a little boy who loved numbers, who deserved a childhood. And instead, I burdened him with this. You protected him, Sarah insisted. You taught him to protect himself with knowledge. Knowledge that could destroy worlds. Amira's laugh was hollow. Some legacy to give a child. It's not about the equations, Sarah said suddenly, understanding. The textbook, the pendant, the museum painting, they're all diversions. The real secret is something else entirely. Amira's eyes sharpened. You see it. Alex said you hid the truth in your enemy's blind spot. What's the one thing Khalid would never think to look for? Love, Nadia breathed. The one thing he's never understood. Amira nodded. The equations in the textbook are real, but incomplete. The key component, the part that makes it all work or prevents it from working, I entrusted to the only person who would understand its true value. Alex, Sarah said, not in numbers or formulas. Amira touched the photo again. In stories, in games, in the simple joy of discovery. The final piece isn't written anywhere. It lives in the memory of a boy who learned physics through love. A commotion in the hallway made them all tense. Nadia checked her phone. There, moving up the timeline, the plane's being readied now. Amira straightened, her royal bearing returning. Then we have very little time. Ms. Matthews, you understand numbers, but more importantly, you understand my son. Will you help us? Of course, Sarah said. But how? Once you're on that plane, we won't be. Amira's smile was fierce. Because you're going to help me escape. And then we're going to save my son and stop my brother-in-law from breaking the universe. Simple mathematics, really. Sarah thought of Alex's careful composure, his brilliant mind, his desperate bravery. She saw all of those qualities now in his mother's face. Simple mathematics, she agreed. Just add determination, multiply by courage, and divide by impossible odds. Don't forget to factor in love, Amira said softly. It's the most powerful variable of all. The escape lasted exactly 6 minutes and 43 seconds. They made it as far as the service elevator before the alarm started. Sarah watched the surveillance cameras from the security station they'd locked themselves into, her stomach sinking as black-clad figures swarmed the building's exits. They were waiting for us, Nadia said grimly, scrolling through camera feeds. This was a trap. On screen, heavily armed men methodically searched floor by floor. Their weapons and movements screamed military training, but their unmarked uniforms suggested something darker. Khalid's private security, Amira confirmed, her face pale but composed. He knew I'd try to escape once I learned they had Alex. But how? Sarah studied the security feeds. The only people who knew we were coming were... She stopped, realization hitting hard. Agent Cooper, Nadia finished. He's working for Khalid. Sarah pulled up the footage from their hospital room earlier. Cooper on his phone, stepping away to take calls. His too convenient appearance at every turn. He's been feeding them information. From the start. Sarah's hands clenched. Everything we've done, everywhere we've gone, they've been one step ahead. Amira moved to the monitors, her medical gown incongruous against the high-tech displays. But they still don't have what they really want. A new image appeared on the screens, live footage from the private airfield. Sarah's breath caught. as she saw Alex being led toward the waiting jet, surrounded by guards. Even from the grainy camera view, she could see his careful mask was firmly in place. "Look at his hands," Amira said softly. Sarah leaned closer. Alex's fingers moved in small, precise patterns at his sides. "He's counting, converting numbers to their prime factors." Amira's smile was proud despite her worry. "It's how he stays calm, but it's also a message. Watch the sequence." Sarah's mathematical mind kicked in following the pattern. These aren't random numbers. They're coordinates. The real coordinates, Nadia realized. Not the ones in the museum painting or the textbook. My clever, brilliant boy. Amira touched the screen. He knows they're watching him, that they'll analyze every word, every gesture. So he's hiding the truth in plain sight, using their own surveillance against them. A pounding on the security room door made them all jump. Heavy boots in the hallway, voices shouting in Arabic. "Time's up," Nadia said, reaching for her phone. "Plan B?" "We don't have a plan B," Sarah protested. "No," Amira agreed. "But we have mathematics." She moved to the security controls, fingers flying over the keyboard. And sometimes the best way to solve an equation is to change the variables. The door shuddered under renewed assault. On screen, Alex had reached the plane. Stairs. His hands never stopped moving. "The prime sequence," Sarah said suddenly. "It's not just coordinates. Look at the pattern repetition. It's a frequency." Amira nodded. "Quantum resonance requires precise mathematical harmony. Too much power in the wrong frequency creates the cascade effect you warned about in your research." "Yes, but the reverse is also true." Amira's typing reached a crescendo. "The right frequency, properly calibrated." The door burst open. Armed men poured in, weapons raised. But Amira was already hitting the final key, and every screen in the room erupted with scrolling numbers. Prime factors cascading in perfect mathematical sequence. The security system speakers squealed with sudden feedback. Every electronic device in the room went haywire, screens flickering, alarms blaring random patterns. "Down!" Nadia shouted, pulling Sarah and Amira to the floor as the chaos spread. Through the window they could see the effects rippling outward. Car, alarms, cell phones, even the private jet's electronics, flashing in synchronized mathematical discord. In the confusion, Sarah saw Alex break away from his guards, running not toward freedom, but toward the terminal, toward them. The quantum reflection effect, she realized. You weaponized it against their electronics. A very small, very controlled demonstration. Amira's voice was sharp with warning. Imagine that effect amplified to theoretical limits. That's what Khalid wants to control, and what Alex has been protecting, not just the equation itself, but the knowledge of how dangerous it could be. The room plunged into darkness as the power grid finally overloaded. In the distance, sirens began to wail. "Come on," Nadia urged, helping them up. "While their systems are down, Alex knows to meet us at the contingency point." As they slipped out into the chaos, Sarah thought about patterns within patterns, about a boy who could bring down a security system with prime numbers, about a mother who hid world-changing physics in mathematical games, about how sometimes the most powerful weapons weren't weapons at all, but understanding wrapped in love, hidden in plain sight. The service tunnels beneath the airport complex were a maze of concrete and shadowy corners. Sarah clutched the hand-drawn map Lisa had given her, its hastily sketched routes looking more like a mathematical graph than an escape plan. "Left at the next junction," Nadia whispered, consulting her phone's compass. The quantum disruption had fried most electronics, but simple magnetic devices still worked. Amira moved with surprising strength for someone recently hospitalized, though Sarah noticed her leaning on walls for support. Above them, boots thundered on metal floors as Khalid's men searched. "Alex knows these tunnels?" Sarah asked. "He memorized the maintenance schematics," Amira said proudly. Part of our contingency planning. My son has always loved patterns. Infrastructure maps are just another form of mathematical topology. A distant explosion rocked the tunnel. Dust rained from the ceiling. "Cooper's men," Nadia growled. "They're trying to flush us out." "Then they don't understand topology," Amira said grimly. "Or my son." "Look at the map again, Ms. Matthews." "What do you see?" Sarah studied the sketched lines. "Something about the pattern. It's not random. The tunnels form a specific geometric shape, like a fractal," Amira finished. "Self-repeating patterns, each section mathematically similar to the whole. Alex chose our meeting point based on geometric necessity, a spot they can't predict, because they don't understand the underlying mathematics." Another explosion, closer this time, but Sarah was already seeing it. The elegant geometry hidden in the mundane maintenance tunnels. "The fourth junction point," she said, "where the pattern reflects back on itself." Amira's smile was fierce. "Exactly. The same principle as quantum reflection, just expressed in physical space instead of theoretical physics." They rounded a corner, and there he was, Alex breathing hard but unharmed, his backpack still clutched tight. His composure cracked at the sight of his mother. "Mom!" He flew into her arms. "Habibi!" Amira held him close, murmuring endearments in Arabic. The reunion was brief. Boots echoed from multiple directions now, voices calling in Arabic and English. "They're boxing us in," Nadia warned, checking her phone. "All the main exits are covered. Good thing we're not using a main exit." Alex pulled away from his mother, face set with determination. He unzipped his backpack, revealing not books, but maintenance tools. "The fractal pattern has a center point, a spot where all the geometrical reflections converge." Sarah saw it on the map, a maintenance shaft that seemed to lead nowhere. A blind spot in their search pattern. And our way out. Alex began assembling something from the tools, pieces clicking together with mathematical precision. Mum's quantum research isn't just about reflection physics. It's about finding points where different patterns overlap, where impossible things become possible. More explosions. The voices were getting closer. "Alex," Amira said urgently, "the sequence you showed them on camera was fake," he finished. "Well, mostly. The basic math was real, but I changed key variables. If they try to replicate the resonance effect using those numbers, it'll fail spectacularly," Amira realized, buying us more time and discrediting. "Their weapons research," Nadia added. "Clever boy." Alex finished assembling his device, a makeshift grappling hook with an unusual geometric pattern worked into its design. The shaft goes up 8 levels, past their search grid. Sarah looked at the narrow vertical tunnel, then at Amira. "Can you climb?" "With help." Amira's voice was determined. "Quantum physics isn't the only kind of impossible thing a mother can do for her child." Flashlight beams appeared at both ends of the tunnel. Voices called out triumphantly in Arabic. "Time to go," Nadia said, helping Alex secure the grappling hook. Sarah looked up the dark shaft, then at this extraordinary family, who fought physics with physics, who hid revolution in mathematics, who faced impossible odds with calculation and courage. "The first rule of problem-solving," she said, taking hold of the rope. "Sometimes the best way out is up." Above them, beyond the steel and concrete, beyond the men with guns and hidden agendas, the night sky waited. And somewhere, in that darkness, was a safe place where a brilliant boy could study mathematics without fear, where a mother's love wouldn't have to be hidden in equations. They just had to solve this one last problem first. The maintenance shaft opened onto a forgotten utility. Level. While Nadia helped Amira catch her breath, Alex pulled a USB drive from a hidden compartment in his backpack. "I downloaded this from Uncle Khalid's private server before I ran," he explained. "But I couldn't decrypt it without Mom's quantum key." Sarah watched as mother and son bent over a salvaged laptop, their fingers moving in synchronized mathematical patterns. On screen, encrypted files began unlocking. revealing a web of corporate documents, classified research, and private communications. Project Mirror, Amira breathed. It's worse than we thought. The files showed years of secret weapons development, quantum reflection technology tested on increasingly larger scales, despite catastrophic failures. And behind it all, a network of shell companies linking Khalid not just to defense contractors, but to terrorist organizations and rogue states. He wasn't just trying to weaponize my research, Amira said. He was planning to sell it to anyone willing to pay, including people who would love to tear reality apart in populated areas, Nadia added grimly. Alex pointed to a series of recent transfers. Look at these payments, those dates. They match when Mum went into the hospital. Sarah leaned closer. These names, they're hospital administrators, security companies, even... She stopped, face darkening. FBI surveillance contracts. Cooper, Nadia confirmed. He's been on Khalid's payroll for months, helping track anyone who got too close to Project Mirror. A new file opened, and Sarah's breath caught. Security photos showed her apartment, the school, the youth shelter. Her and Lisa helping Alex. All time-stamped weeks before she'd ever met him. They were watching me, but why? Because of your mathematics background, Amira said softly. Your work with troubled youth. Your history of helping without asking questions. They knew Alex would seek someone like you. They let him find me, Sarah realized, to see if he had the quantum key. And when that failed, they tried force. Nadia touched her bruised face. The cabin attack wasn't just about capturing Alex. They wanted to know if he'd shared the equations with you. More files appeared. Psychological profiles, surveillance, reports, contingency plans, a thorough analysis of everyone in Alex's potential orbit, looking for weaknesses to exploit. But they didn't understand the most important variable, Alex said, taking his mother's hand. You can't predict human connection. With equations. Footsteps echoed from the shaft below. Voices called out in Arabic and English. Speaking of predictions, Nadia warned, we're running out of time. Amira's fingers flew over the keyboard, copying key files. We need to get this to the authorities, the real authorities, not Khalid's puppets. I know someone, Sarah said. A reporter, I trust. She helped expose that corruption scandal at the state level last year. Good. Amira handed her a copy of the drive. But first we need to finish what my quantum reflection demonstration started. A larger-scale version, properly calibrated, could fry their entire operation, Alex finished. Every server, every backup, every piece of research, and provide a public demonstration of why this technology is too dangerous to weaponize, Amira added. The electronic disruption will be noticed, questions will be asked. But you'll need access to their main systems, Nadia pointed out, which are in the secure server room, 2 floors down. Where they're searching for us, Sarah added. Alex's face set with familiar determination. Then we give them something. To find a distraction, while Mom and I calibrate the resonance effect. No. Amira gripped his arm. I won't let you put yourself in danger again. Mom, Alex's voice was gentle. You taught me that mathematics is about finding patterns, making connections, solving impossible problems. He touched the pendant she still wore. But you also taught me that the most important equations are the ones written in love. Amira's eyes filled with tears. My brilliant boy. Let me help, Sarah said. I can create the distraction. I'm the one they've been watching anyway. Heavy boots on metal stairs, getting closer. We need to move, Nadia urged. Whatever we're doing, we do it now. Sarah looked at this improbable family, a mathematical, genius mother, a quantum prodigy son, a rebel princess aunt. Then at the USB drive, containing proof of a conspiracy that spanned continents and threatened worlds. Sometimes the hardest problems required the simplest solutions. Ready to solve one last equation? She asked Alex. He nodded, that familiar, determined gleam in his eyes. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate variables like love and courage. Behind them, the first flashlight beams appeared in the darkness. Sarah's distraction turned out to be simpler than anyone expected. The truth. Using Alex's phone, untraceable thanks to Lisa's foresight, she live-streamed from the airport's main terminal. Within minutes, thousands were watching as a middle school math teacher calmly explained how a Saudi prince had weaponized quantum physics. "My name is Sarah Matthews," she began, looking directly into the camera, "and I'm here with Prince Alexander bin Hassan al-Rashid, who has something to say to the world." Alex stepped into frame, his careful royal composure now a strength rather than a mask. Behind him, through the terminal windows, news vans were already arriving, drawn by social media alerts. "3 days ago, I sought refuge with Ms. Matthews," he said, his young voice steady. "Not because I was running away from my responsibilities, but because I was trying to protect something far more important than a corporate empire." In the server room 2 floors below, Amira and Nadia worked swiftly to calibrate the quantum resonance effect. Sarah kept the camera focused on Alex, but she could feel the electronic devices around them beginning to vibrate with mathematical precision. "My mother, Princess Amira, made a discovery that could revolutionize physics," Alex continued, "but her research also revealed a danger, one that my uncle, Crown Prince Khalid, sought to weaponize and sell to the highest bidder." Security forces burst into the terminal, but stopped short at the sight of cameras. Behind them, Cooper appeared, his FBI facade cracking as he realized what was happening. "For 3 years, I watched my uncle's men pressure my mother." Alex's voice grew stronger. "Watched them try to force her to unlock equations that could tear reality apart. Watched them hurt anyone who tried to help us." The lights began to flicker, not randomly but in precise patterns. Phones glitched, computers crashed, and in the distance, car alarms began to wail in mathematical harmony. "So I made a choice," Alex said. "To trust a teacher who showed me kindness, to believe that education and understanding are more powerful than weapons, to prove that even quantum physics can't break the strongest equation of all, a mother's love for her child." Sarah's phone suddenly projected its video feed onto every screen in the terminal. Phones, laptops, the giant flight information displays. Alex's face multiplied across dozens of surfaces as the quantum effect amplified electronic signals. "What you're seeing now is a controlled demonstration," he explained, gesturing to the electromagnetic chaos around them. "A fraction of what this technology could do in the wrong hands. My mother hid the true equations in a place my uncle would never think to look, in the simple joy of a child learning mathematics." Cooper drew his weapon, but airport security moved to stop him. Outside, more media arrived. The terminal filled, with phones broadcasting Alex's words across the globe. "I'm not just a prince or an heir," Alex's voice rang with quiet power. "I am my mother's son, a student of mathematics, and I choose to use that knowledge not for weapons, but for understanding. Not for power, but for progress." The quantum resonance reached its peak. Every screen in the terminal showed the same image: security footage of Khalid's men attacking the cabin, medical records of Princess Amira's forced hospitalization, financial documents proving Cooper's corruption. "My uncle believed he could control quantum physics through force," Alex said. "But he forgot the most basic rule of mathematics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Every attempt to weaponize knowledge creates an opportunity to expose truth." The terminal erupted in camera flashes as Princess Amira emerged from the lower level, supported by Nadia. 3 years of secrets unraveled in an instant as mother and son faced the world together. "We are done hiding," Amira announced, her voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence. "Done watching corrupt men try to twist science into weapons. Done letting fear override truth." Sarah kept filming as reality shifted around them. Not through quantum physics, but through the simple power of truth finally spoken aloud. Through the courage of a boy who protected world-changing equations by turning them into a public shield rather than a private sword. In the end, it was mathematics in its purest form. When you change the variables, you change the entire equation. Crown Prince Khalid arrived as the quantum resonance was fading, his private security details scattering before the wall of cameras and phones. He moved with the confidence of a man used to controlling every situation, right until he saw the legal documents projected on every screen in the terminal. "These are fabrications," he announced, but his voice lacked conviction. "My nephew is confused, manipulated by mathematics?" Amira stepped forward, steel in her voice. "The numbers don't lie, brother. Unlike you." Sarah kept the live stream running as Nadia produced a final set of documents, inheritance papers signed by Alex's father before his death. "The original copies," Nadia said, her voice carrying. "Not the altered versions you filed. Proof that my brother never intended you to have guardianship of either his son or his company." Khalid's composure cracked. "You dare? After I protected our family's interests?" "You protected nothing," Alex cut in, his young voice sharp with authority. "You tried to steal my mother's research, tried to force her to weaponize physics. But you never understood the most important equation." "And what equation is that?" Khalid sneered. "The one that proves love is stronger than fear." Alex held up his mother's pendant. "You spent 3 years searching for complex formulas, but the truth was simple. Mom hid her research in plain sight, in the way she taught me physics through love, in problems we solved together, in the joy of discovery. Federal agents, real ones this time, moved through the crowd. Cooper was already in custody, his FBI badge confiscated. The quantum resonance demonstration was recorded and verified by multiple sources," Amira added, "including several university physics departments who just happened to be monitoring electromagnetic anomalies in the area. A clear proof of concept," Alex continued, sounding every inch the physics prodigy, "showing exactly why this technology can never be weaponized. The risks are too high, the variables too unpredictable. You're just a child," Khalid spat, "playing with forces you can't understand." "No," Sarah stepped forward. "He's a brilliant student who protected world-changing physics by understanding something you never could. That real power comes from knowledge shared, not secrets hoarded." Khalid's hand moved toward his jacket. Guards tensed. But before anyone could react, the terminal screens flickered again, showing security footage of his private office, of conversations about weapons sales and forced research, of orders given regarding Princess Amira's medical treatment. "Quantum resonance affects electronic storage too," Alex explained calmly. "When properly calibrated, it can unlock any digital encryption, including your private servers. You," Khalid's face contorted, "proved that physics is more powerful than politics." Amira smiled. "That mathematics can't be controlled through force." "Yes, we did." Federal agents moved in with warrants. Interpol representatives appeared, discussing extradition and international weapons charges. "The board of directors is already convening," Nadia added, checking her phone. "Given the evidence of corporate espionage and illegal weapons development, I believe they'll be appointing new leadership." "With my full support," Alex said clearly, "as primary shareholder." Sarah watched as Khalid was led away, his power evaporating like quantum possibilities, collapsing into a single reality. A reality shaped not by force or fear, but by the courage of a boy who turned physics into protection. The media surged forward, questions flying, but Alex turned first to Sarah. "Thank you," he said softly, "for teaching me that some problems can't be solved alone. And for showing us that sometimes the best classrooms aren't in schools," Amira added, embracing her son. Sarah smiled, thinking of all the times she'd told her students that mathematics had real-world applications. None of her lesson plans had covered quantum physics and international intrigue, but the fundamental truth remained: every problem could be solved with the right equation. Even if that equation was as simple as adding trust to courage, multiplying by determination, and factoring in love. 2 weeks later, Sarah sat in a sunlit conference room atop the Rashid Global building in Boston, watching Alex address the board of directors. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, but his feet didn't quite reach the floor from the tall chair. "While I am legally the majority shareholder," he was saying, "I believe my time is better spent continuing my education. Therefore, I propose appointing my mother, Dr. Amira Al-Rashid, as CEO and head researcher of our new quantum physics division." The board members, still reeling from Khalid's arrest and the international scandal, nodded in unanimous agreement. Sarah caught Amira hiding a smile behind her professional facade. "Furthermore," Alex continued, "I want to announce the creation of the Rashid Foundation for Scientific Education. Its first project will be establishing advanced mathematics and physics programs in underfunded schools." Now it was Sarah's turn to hide a smile. The foundation documents on the table in front of her still felt surreal. A multi-million-dollar initiative, and they wanted her to run it. "Ms. Matthews has shown not just mathematical ability," Alex said, "but an understanding of how to make complex concepts accessible and engaging. Exactly what we need to nurture the next generation of scientists." After the meeting, Sarah found Alex in what had been Khalid's office, already transformed into a combination study and physics lab. Equations covered the whiteboards, and a familiar textbook sat open on the desk. "Still working on quantum reflection theory?" she asked. "Mom says I need to understand the fundamentals before we explore new applications." He grinned. "But she also says I can help design the foundation's curriculum." "Speaking of which," Sarah held up the foundation proposal, "are you sure about this? It's a lot of responsibility. That's why we need you." Amira entered, carrying more textbooks. Someone who understands that education isn't just about formulas. It's about inspiration. Sarah thought of her classroom, of students struggling with algebra, of the moment when confusion turned to understanding, when numbers became tools rather than obstacles. "We can't all be quantum physics prodigies," she said. "No," Alex agreed, "but we can all learn to see the patterns, to understand the equations that shape our world." He paused. "Will you still teach me sometimes? Regular math, I mean. Like making eggs," Sarah laughed. "Only if you help me design some really interesting word problems for my students. I think if a quantum prince runs away from corrupt uncles at speed X, might get their attention." "Deal." Alex's formal mask dissolved into a real smile. "And maybe sometimes we can just do math for fun, like Mom and I used to." Amira wrapped an arm around her son. "We still will, Habibi, but now we can share that joy with others. Through the foundation, through Sarah's teaching, through understanding rather than fear," Sarah finished. "Speaking of which, how are the federal investigations going?" "Cooperating fully," Amira said. "Though most of Khalid's weapons research was theoretical, without the key quantum equations, which remain safely encoded in family math lessons," Alex added proudly. Sarah looked around the office, remembering the frightened boy who'd appeared at her door in the rain. He was still there in Alex's smile, but now the fear was gone, replaced by the confidence of someone who knew he was finally safe. On his desk, beside advanced physics texts and corporate reports, sat a beginner's cookbook, open to a page about eggs. Some equations, Sarah realized, were universal, like the way courage plus kindness equaled change, the way love multiplied when shared, the way small acts of compassion could add up to transform lives. "So," she said, picking up the cookbook, "ready for your next math lesson?" The education initiative proposal lay open on Sarah's desk at the Foundation's new headquarters, its pages Filled with ambitious plans, 6 months had transformed both her life and Alex's world in ways neither could have imagined that rainy night. "The pilot program's ready," Lisa announced, entering with a stack of curriculum materials. After the scandal broke, she'd immediately volunteered to help develop the Foundation's teaching frameworks. 10 schools to start, focusing on underfunded districts. Sarah nodded, reviewing the plans. Advanced mathematics and physics would be taught through real-world applications and hands-on projects. No quantum secrets, but plenty of inspiration. "Alex wants to guest lecture," she said, smiling. "Incognito, of course. A prince teaching multiplication through cooking. That'll keep their attention." They both looked out the window to where Alex was helping a group of students in the Foundation's first after-school program. He wore regular clothes, but his natural teaching ability shone through as he demonstrated mathematical concepts using simple kitchen chemistry. "He's good with them," Lisa observed. "No royal airs, just genuine enthusiasm. He understands what it's like to learn differently," Sarah said, "to see patterns others miss." The door opened and Amira entered, elegant as always, but more relaxed now. Running Rashid Global from Boston instead of Riyadh had allowed her to focus on research while staying close to Alex. "The university partnership contracts are signed," she announced. "Full scholarships for promising students with guaranteed internships at our new research facilities." Sarah picked up a framed photo from her desk. Alex, teaching his first class, face lit with joy as he explained prime numbers through baking ratios. Beside it sat the textbook where his mother had hidden world-changing equations in simple math problems. "Who would have thought," she mused, "that quantum physics could lead to this?" "Knowledge is neutral," Amira said. "It's how we share it that matters." She watched her son demonstrating fractions by cutting cookies. Khalid wanted to control physics through fear. But Alex, he shows us a better way. The Foundation's lobby buzzed with activity. Teachers being trained in new methods, students discovering the joy of mathematics, researchers developing ways to make complex concepts accessible to young minds. "The board's impressed," Lisa mentioned. "Enrollment in advanced math classes is up 40% at our pilot schools. Because we're teaching understanding, not just formulas," Sarah said, "showing them why it matters." Through the window, they watched Alex high-five a student who'd solved a particularly tricky problem. No one seeing him now would guess he was technically one of the world's wealthiest preteens, or that he could explain quantum mechanics over breakfast. "He's finding his balance," Amira said softly, "between who he was born to be and who he chooses to be." Sarah thought of her own journey, from middle school teacher to foundation director, from helping one runaway boy to transforming mathematics education. "Sometimes the most important variables are the ones you don't expect," she said, making Amira laugh. "Speaking of variables," Lisa interjected, "wait until you see what Alex has planned for the summer science camp. Something about teaching orbital mechanics through water balloons. As long as it doesn't involve quantum effects," Sarah joked. "No, just regular physics." Alex had slipped in quietly, still wearing an apron from his cooking math lesson. "Though Mom's helping design some really cool demonstrations." "And how are the students doing?" Amira asked. Alex's face lit up. "Jamie finally understood factoring when we made pizza, and Maria's already asking about calculus. Future scientists," Lisa suggested. "Future anything," Alex corrected. "That's the point, isn't it? To show them that mathematics isn't just about formulas or quantum physics or corporate empires." He looked at his mother. "It's about seeing the patterns that connect everything, about understanding our world better." Sarah watched this extraordinary boy, still royal, still brilliant, but now free to simply be himself, to share his love of learning without fear or pressure. Some equations, she reflected, solved themselves in unexpected ways, like how a night of rain plus courage could equal transformation. How physics plus compassion could add up to change. How sometimes the most important lesson wasn't in the textbook at all, but in the simple joy of teaching someone else to see the magic in numbers. 1 year later, the newspaper article on Sarah's office wall told the story like a fairy tale. Royal Foundation transforms mathematics education. Below the headline was a photo of Alex and his mother at the opening of the Foundation's 20th school program, both of them beaming as students, demonstrated their projects. Sarah touched the frame, remembering that rainy night that had started it all. Now her old classroom was just one of hundreds benefiting from the Foundation's resources, and Alex... A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Alex stood there, tablet in hand, practically bouncing with excitement. "You have to see this," he said, hurrying in. "Maria's quantum mechanics project got accepted to the National Science Fair." Sarah smiled at his enthusiasm. The quiet, formal boy who'd appeared at her door had blossomed into an eager teacher himself, splitting his time between royal duties and his true passion, helping other kids discover the joy of mathematics. The same Maria who couldn't multiply fractions last year. Exactly. He showed her the project details. She used cooking to explain quantum superposition, like how we used eggs to learn basic math, but way more advanced. Speaking of advanced, Sarah picked up a different article from her desk, this one from a scientific journal. Your mother's paper on safe applications of quantum reflection technology was published. The peer reviews were amazing, Alex said proudly, especially since she included my observations about pattern recognition in the quantum field. He'd grown taller over the year, but still carried his backpack everywhere. These days, though, it held teaching materials instead of escape plans. The silver pendant still hung around his neck, but now it was just a reminder rather than a key to dangerous secrets. How are the new students settling in? Sarah asked. Alex's face softened. The ones from the shelter, they're doing great. Marcus says the tutoring program is really helping. He paused. One of them reminded me of myself, scared, but trying so. Hard to be strong. And what did you tell them? That sometimes the scariest things can lead to the best changes. That it's okay to need help. He smiled. That mathematics is about more than just numbers. Sarah's phone buzzed. A message from Lisa about the summer program's expanding enrollment. The Foundation's success had exceeded everyone's expectations, spreading from Boston across the globe. Your uncle's appeal was denied, she mentioned. Carefully. I know. Alex's voice was steady. Mom told me this morning. She also said the company's clean energy division is ready to implement her safe version of quantum field technology. Something good coming from all that research. Through the window, they could see students arriving at the Foundation's learning center. Among them were faces Sarah recognized from Marcus's shelter, kids who'd found new hope through education. Ready for your quantum physics class? She asked. Actually, Alex hesitated. I was thinking of teaching basic algebra today, maybe with some cookies. His eyes twinkled. Sometimes you have to understand the simple equations before you can tackle the complex ones. Sarah laughed. Now who's starting to sound like a real teacher? I learned from the best. He shouldered his backpack. Someone who showed me that the most important lessons aren't always about mathematics. As he headed to his classroom, Sarah watched him stop to help a younger student with dropped books. No one seeing him would guess he was a prince who'd helped prevent quantum weapons proliferation. They'd just see a kind teenager who loved teaching mathematics, and maybe that was the most elegant equation of all. How fear plus courage could equal hope. How running away could lead to finding a new home. How one act of kindness could multiply into 1,000 opportunities. The final bell rang. Through her open door, Sarah heard Alex's voice. Okay, everyone, today we're going to learn how algebra relates to baking the perfect chocolate chip cookie. Trust me, by the end of this class, you'll never look at fractions the same way again. Sarah smiled and turned back to her work. Sometimes the best endings weren't endings at all, but new beginnings, new problems to solve, new patterns to discover. And sometimes, the most complex quantum physics in the world couldn't explain something as simple as the joy in a child's eyes when they finally understood. That was an equation even a middle school math teacher could solve.